Well, hello. Today I'm going to teach you how to use the mission editor in DCS World 2.5. Let's get started. First, we're going to click on mission editor. That's going to take us here. We can do one of two things. We can do create mission, open mission. I'm going to create an all new mission. These are the modules that I have listed on the left hand side, and these are the factions. So you can say, I want the UN peacekeepers. If you start brand new, you're going to have to put in most of these factions into each side, whatever side respectively they're going to go into. So now we have all this factions assigned, allied with whatever countries we want them allied with. So red is going to have all these, blue is going to have all these. Then choose your area of flavor. I'm going to choose Persian Gulf because we're going to do a pirate raid. So follow along. Go ahead and click OK. We're going to choose Abu Musa Island. This is my go-to for destruction. I don't know. It just is. Everybody has their go-to. So here's mine. So we have one harbor here, an airfield, and a city structure over here, as well as some various associated airport buildings that we can choose from to destroy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in naval, ground, and air forces. And I'm not, let me let you know, I'm not going to use any scripts. I'm not going to use anything aside from your base mission editing file right now. So starting from the top down, what I want to do is I want to open my briefing thing here, and I can select sortie, and so let's call this pirate raid. Briefing images. Now, if you want an image to populate in the middle of this thing, you can say, all right, so for blue side, I want them to have this image. For red side, I want them to have this image as soon as they load in. So let's say blue side, and let's select, I don't know. You can just select any myriad of different images that you have saved on your hard drive or wherever. So we can go screenshots, and then we can just, select just a random screenshot. There we go. Oh, that's not quite good. And it gives you a little image here you can we'll go screenshots, and let's go to one of my list ones. Go to, that'll work. We'll do this one. It's just a random screenshot. It could be anything you want it to be. And the red one, here we go. Estovakian aircraft, also known as the Scav Air Force. So in this thing, you can type in your situation, whatever you want your situation to be. I'm going to do a brief synopsis. Okay, so there's your situation. Then for red task, you can put in whatever you want the red task to be, and blue task, whatever you want the blue task to be, neutrals, whatever you want the neutral task to be. Awesome, so that's pretty much set up. I can put those tasks in. I'm not going to right now. Next is the weather. So the weather is very, very important because it is a fully dynamic weather system. Whereas the sunrise and the moon cycle is such that it reflects real life. So whatever calendar year, and you can go back through Google or whatever your browser choice is and look when the full moon is. This happens to be June 21st, 2016 happens to be a full moon. So that's pretty cool. But we're not going to do it a nighttime. We're going to do a morning time raid. So because this is summertime, I'm going to start my raid at about 5:15 a.m. The sun will just be coming up. I'm going to input a slight breeze, a 5-knot breeze. At 1,600 feet, it's doubled. And at 6,000 feet, I'll just put it at 7 knots. And I'll put the wind direction, slightly from over that way. 26,000 feet, let's have a 33-knot breeze that's actually headwind. Kind of interesting. You can set in turbulence. You can set in fog, dust. So what this does is it gives this cool little dust smoke, limited visibility sort of effect, and it's very interesting to see. It's pretty cool. And down here, so this is the really neat part about this. If you want, say for instance, in somewhere like Caucasus, where you have all of the weathers simulated. Like you have winter, you have autumn, you have summer, you have spring. You can do your preloads here, and it'll change the color of the trees in autumn to where you have that beautiful fall foliage, spring, and then summer is super green, obviously, and then you have winter. Now that is the only map that I've found that actually is affected, is the Caucasus map, by the seasons. So we're just going to leave that be for right now, because the Middle East is pretty dry regardless of what year it is. There are some rainstorms that come through, but it's still sand. Awesome. So there goes the weather. If you want to input clouds, you can as well. So the closer, if you go density 10, that means it's completely overcast. If you go density 3, you've got broken and scattered clouds. You can also adjust your barometric pressure here. Precipitations, you can add some rain if you so desire. But with these clouds here, I can put it at, like 16,000 feet. You can adjust the thickness as well. How thick do you want these boys to be? Precipitations, none, because there's just not enough in here to be, like, if you went to something like 10, then you can do rain and thunderstorm. So there's a certain marker here. So if we set it to 5, we can do a little bit of rain, but if we set it to 10, we can do thunderstorm. So we're actually going to remove these. We're going to remove it. We're going to make it a clear day. Completely clear day. 29902, perfect weather. And we are going to start putting in some naval forces. Well, first, what's the next one down? We've got triggers. We're not going to mess with triggers. Next thing you have are mission goals. We're not going to mess with those either. We've got battlefield commanders. We're not going to mess with that. And set mission options here. Now, this is where you can go in through. Do you want to include GFX? Do you want to include all this stuff? Do you want to make people immortal, unlimited fuel, unlimited weapons, easy communication, radio assist, unrestricted sat nav, padlock, and so on and so forth. Whatever you want to do. This is a pretty cool thing. So we're going to leave that as it is, and we're going to move right into putting units in there. So we are going to have our Scav Air Force. Click. We go to Russia because that's what it's currently loaded under. I'm going to leave it as CAS. Let me go into my whatever aircraft you want to do, by the way. Whatever aircraft. I'm going to throw on some Su-27s with some custom skins that I have. You can set in your skill level of the pilot that you want to have. I usually set them as Ace. And then you can change the name if you want. You don't need to. And then this is going to be the next most important thing is, now, do you want them to be stationary and take off from this area? Do you want them to take off from the runway, or do you want them to be in the air? Right now, it has them at turning point, which means they're in the air at 6,562 feet. This is the default altitude that they will start at, and the default airspeed is 330 knots. So what we're going to do is actually click this little drop down, and you have flyover point, which means they're also going to be in the air, or you can do landing, take off from parking hot, which means that this thing starts with the engine running, take off from the ramp, which means it's going to start cold, or take off from runway. So I'm going to start take off from ramp. Now at this point, you have all your different waypoints. So by default, it's already in add waypoint. So I right clicked and zoomed out. Now I can choose, where do I want this thing to go? All you have to do is left click and it populates a waypoint. Right click and drag, and I'm going to left click. I'm going to left click. I'm going to left click over here. I'm going to left click over here, which is right over the island airport. And it doesn't need to be exact, it just needs to be close. And because this thing is still selected, all I'm going to do is I'm going to left click and left click landing. And it'll land back at that airport. So now we're going to go ahead. If you want to add 2 or 3 or 4 different aircraft, you can. But first, let's do this. Because if you want to have the aircraft with the same loadout, or you want them to be loaded out and not have to mess with it, it's easier to just do this. You're going to left click on this tab right here. It's going to go to payload. So now what you can do is you can click up here and you can right click and you can add whatever you want. So I'm going to add the ECM pod, it adds it to both. R73, let's go R73. Got an R27ET and an R27ET. What else do we have? We have an ER. We have an ER. And let's add some bombs to this thing. We'll add some Fab 250s. There we go. Awesome. So there's my Estovakian Air Force. I also want to bump the fuel up because on the Russian aircraft, it likes to start with very little fuel. So I'm going to bump this all the way up to 100. Now, I want there to be 3 aircraft, a 3-ship formation that takes off from this area. So what I'm going to do is I want them all to have the same payload. And I'm going to go click, click. Now I have 3 aircraft with the same payload. But if you want to change it up, say you want this guy to have a different payload, all you do is you left click him, come over here, come into here, and you can be like, you know what? I want him to actually have, I don't know, rockets. So we'll throw some rockets on this guy. And we'll put some bombs on him as well. Let's put some 500-pound bombs on him. Cool. There you go. Now he's got a different payload. But they're all going to follow the same flight path. Next thing we want to do is and this works with anything that you want to do. There are some more advanced things, but this is just the basic how to create a mission. I'm going to go into more how do you add refueling? How do you make things attack things? How do you do that? That's going to be in another video. So now we're going to go into helicopters. Helicopters work very much the same way. They're virtually identical. So I'm going to left click and add a helicopter. I'm going to add a Russian Mi-26, the big old well, no, let's add an Mi-24 because they're cool helicopters. Set that as ace. And then like before, I'm going to click here, but I'm going to start takeoff from either ground hot. Now this is the difference. You can have it take off from over here. It does not need to take off from a set parking spot. You can say take off from ground hot, and you can drag it over here. And if you want to change the location orientation of a unit, now this is for any of the different units that you'll be putting in, you can click this thing and see it's moving my unit around. Now what I want to do is I want to take that thing off from ground hot, but I want to have a specific location. Because I moved that around, I have to re-click this add button. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move him over here, just a shorter perimeter because he's a helicopter. And you can change the altitude and airspeed. So I want him to be up at 2,600 feet at 120 knots. For this specific leg, he's going to increase in altitude. Now there's going to be no change between, if you change it, there's going to be no change between this waypoint and this waypoint. He's still going to be at 260 knots, but this waypoint will be different. So then he's going to come back, and then he's just going to land. But now I want to make sure that you need to make sure you do this every time. Make sure you put his payload on there. And let's do 3 of them. Very cool. So now we have a full perimeter. We have aircraft, we have fast movers, and we have helicopters. They're going to be spawning, and you can start these guys wherever. You can put them all this way. They're all facing the different ways, so let's put them over there. Okay, cool. Beautiful. So they're going to take out there. So if you start these helicopters over here, what they're going to do is they're going to taxi all the way onto the runway, turn around, and then take off. But if you start them from the ground, they're going to take off from the ground, which is a lot more advantageous for a myriad of different reasons. You don't have the runway tied up, and it's just more expedient. Now we're going to add our naval units. I have some add-ons here, so I'm going to go into, let's call them Iranian. They're Iranian gunboats, armed speedboat, or armed vessel 2 with guns. There we go. So we have this guy over here, and the same thing applies. You just move this, and now I'm going to left-click him over here. He's going to be moving at 27 knots. You don't have to mess with their starting position. You don't have to, because they automatically start in the water. And then we'll just have him do a patrol around there. And then he'll just come back over here and generally just hang out. And now say I want to have 2 of them. So I want to do this one, and then I'll add another one. The cool thing about this is that with the ground units and the naval units only, you can have different types of vessels in their group. So right now, say I want a vessel 4 with guns. So now they're going to spawn. Oh, it only spawned. Yep, there we go. So I've got a vessel 2 with guns, and I have a vessel 4 with guns. And you can edit all their attributes. You cannot edit their loadout or their payload, because that's just what comes with it. with some of the ships you can go in here and you can click this and it'll give you different like variations of the ship. Like the Ticonderoga will have a bunch of different stuff it can be. All of it has repairs, have all kinds of different ships. Okay, so just to emphasize that, you cannot, if you click this and you say I want to go and you want to, so say you want to move between units, don't click this one because this will just make you have two of them. You want to click this one to move back to the other unit. You can't switch this to an MI-26 because it'll make them all MI-26s. Same thing here. If you switch this to Su-33s, they'll all become Su-33s. The only way you can change it is with ground and naval units. Now we're going to put in some ground units. We're going to put in some people around this port that are facilitating the piracy. So we'll put in some Iranian. No, they're armor. They're armor. We want unarmed. Oops, wrong button. Unarmed. And now you can put in your transport Urals, whatever. Put it over there, and then if you want to look at it, be like, what the heck is this thing? Okay, it's one of these. There we go. Now it's got the desert camouflage on it. So you can either do this, start off-road, on-road, or you can add formations. So I'm going to start it off-road just because, you know, whatever. I'll just keep it there. And then I just want to add a couple more of them. 2, 3. And I'm going to click and drag these suckers over there. So if you click the primary unit, you will move the entire group. And this is with all ground units. So say if I want to just click this guy, I can move him. If I want to click this guy, I can move him. But if I click this guy, he moves all of them. And you can't drag it into the water. So, like, see, I'm blocked. I can't drag it other than over here. So I'll put them all right here. Let's add another guy actually right there. I wish this had the ARMA mission editor, because the ARMA mission editor actually allows you to look in real time how this is in 3D, so you can move things around. But you know what? It is what it is. And then now we're going to add some more people. So I can add a different class of things. Say I'm going to have an armor class now. And we're going to have a BTR-80 out there he's out there doing things to stuff. Here's the desert. Beautiful. There we go. So now we have ground units, we have naval units, and we have air units. Now, you've set up your target area. It's time to set up your friendly forces. Your friendly forces can take, in this AO, usually take off from Al Dhafra. Sometimes they're out of Al Manad. Say, for instance, whatever reason, they're out of Al Manad right now. So you can set up your guy, whoever you want it to be, and you can have him take off from wherever you want him to take off from. So I will set up a... Oh, goodness gracious. I'll set up a US... Well, let's do CAS. Let's do CAS. I'm going to set up a US CAS F-16. I'm going to set it as, now this is important. Set it as either client if you're gonna have multiple aircraft selectable, or you can set it as player. I'm going to set it as player, and you can change the pilot, you know, the tail number that'll appear on it, so you can be like, I don't know, 013 or whatever. Set it to Dodge and have different call signs. And then, like I said, you want to start this. I don't like to wait for INS alignment because I just don't have the time for it. So take off from parking hot. Now you can set up your waypoints. Waypoint 1, be right over there. And then waypoint 2 is going to be back at Almanad. Easy peasy. I don't need to refuel because it's a very short hop. But before I do anything, I need to do what? Load the payload out, right? Right click, or just click this. Make sure the fuel's all the way to 100. And now I can start picking and choosing what I want to have as my goodies on this airplane. So I can right click this, and then add whatever I want to add in. So these are Mark 82s. What else do I want to... Mark 82s are fun. Mark 82s are fine. I've got Mavericks. I've got GBU 12s. I'm probably going to add more Mavericks. 3 Deltas, 3 Deltas. I'm going to be a bit heavy, but that's okay. I'm going to switch this to HEIT, so I actually have tracers so I can see where my rounds are going. And now you can go move down and select your livery. Whatever livery you want to have on this thing. I will use the Have Glass V, or Have Glass, whatever this thing, the Have Glass livery. Now, I want to add a full flight with me because I need emotional support animals. So I'm going to add 4 of us. Now there's 4 of us. See that? Cool. And so I want to have something up here as well. I want to add an AWACS. I'll just show you how to do this real quick. So I'm going to left click. I'm going to click down to AWACS. So that'll only populate AWACS selectable aircraft. I'll have an E3A. That it is Ace. This is going to have Overlord, Magic, Wizard, Focus, Dark Star. I like Dark Star. It's kind of a cool name. And then I'm going to have takeoff from runway. So we're going to be able to watch him take off maybe. Then I want to select the USAF standard. So now he's going to automatically start in the middle of the runway. Well, he won't. He'll start over here, but it just shows that he's in the middle of the runway. Or they are in the middle of the runway because there's multiple people on that damn thing. Now what I want to do is I want to have them basically cruise around just back here out of the line of danger. So I'll have them over there. But for the AWACS to work properly, you need it to be at altitude. So I'm going to select 26,000 feet and go 320 knots. And then I'm just going to have them kind of do laps up in the sky over here until I get tired. And then last one is going to be, of course, back over, generally over the runway. And then just click landing and it'll land and park itself. Pretty simple. So now I've got AWACS support, and as soon as the AWACS is airborne, it'll start telling me things and stuff that are happening over here. So that's pretty useful to have. At this point, I'm relatively done. I can run this mission and I can probably succeed. But a lot of the times what I like to do is have allied flights that are going to run cap for me if I'm going to go into a casserole. If I'm going to go in and try and have just do some ground pounding, I'm going to need some people in there to soften up the aircraft so that I can focus primarily on my air-ground mission. So what that would look like is, say I'm going to have some dudes coming out of Kasab and they're going to go attack. Let's pick some friendly aircraft, and they don't have to be US, they can be whatever. They can be Australian, they can be Canadian, they can be Brazilian, they can be whoever you have set into your allies. It can be French. So let's say we have some there we go. We got some Kuwaiti F-18s. Now this skin, the Kuwaiti skin, is actually included with the F-18 module. We'll set them as veterans. Take off from runway, and they're gonna head over there, and they're gonna go back over there, land. Make sure that we have them have everything they need to complete their mission. So I'm gonna make sure they have all their missiles that they need. Here they are, 25th Squadron. There's another one that's the 9th Squadron. So I'll select the 25th again, which is all good. Their fuel is good. So let's select 4 of them. And they're going to cruise over there to Kasab. But the one thing that I didn't do, though, is I set them going at the default altitude and airspeed. I need them to get over there quickly. So I'm going to go like 550 knots for them at 26,000 feet. So that's going to put them at Mach 0.9, which is perfect. I need them to get up there and boogie and knock those guys out while I can focus on what I need to do. They have a little bit further to go than I do. So I'm going to kind of, you know, they are taking off from the runway, though. I have to taxi my happy butt with my flight of F-16s over to the active. And that's how you run a mission. So now what you want to do is you want to save this thing. You want to do save. And you can name it whatever. You can name this Pirate Raid. I'm going to name this V2 because I already have one Pirate Raid. So this is Pirate Raid V2. I'm going to save this. Now if you want to proof it, you left click this fly mission button and you can fly the mission. I hope this has been informative for a basic mission editing thing. We have more to come, and I appreciate you guys coming on. Take it easy, like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll try and answer whatever comments you have. Have a magnificent day.